viewers of Mpumakapa TV, listeners of Nkqubela FM, welcome again to our series of lectures as Amaqhawe Ethu. You know, we celebrate the heritage of Zimbabwe, we celebrate amaqhawe azabalazileyo nezinto ezenzekileyo ngexesha lomzabalazo. Namhlanje siniphathele uBhuti Nyamezeli Boy, wayesakuba inkokheli yabafundi kwi-COSAS, wayinkokheli yabasebenzi kwiSARU, wayinkokheli yasepalamente engummeli ngunyana ke walapha eSouth Africa, kuba uyafumaneka eRhafu, uyafumaneka eKapa, nalapha eBhayi unalo nebango, kanti ukhe wahlala wangumhlali apha eBhayi ngenxa yalo mzabalazo, ingathi naseTinarha. So we're having that. Who's going to be sharing with us their experiences as activists in the 80s kusenziwa lo mzabalazo. Bunyani, let me welcome you over to our program and thank for availing yourself. We welcome you. Over to you.
Yeah. Good afternoon to the viewers and good afternoon to everybody. I welcome the opportunity to be able to reflect on a generation that has made a contribution from 1970 after the Black Consciousness movement was banned. We got ourselves involved in SAZIM, and after that SAZIM was banned, we got ourselves involved into formation of the Congress of South African Students in 1979. And throughout that, we've been quite determined. When we joined the Congress of South African Students, it was quite clear that as a student movement, we would have to be able to link up with those that have been in the tradition of the Congress movement itself. So part of us started to get involved in the underground movement and linking up with the African National Congress. So from 1979, we were quite explicitly saying to ourselves that the unbanning of the African National Congress has started. The link with our people on the ground has started, and that work had to be done. So our own contribution as the as the Congress of South African Students, and our linkages to the democratic movement called the African National Congress is what makes me to be able to come to the viewers and talk about our generation, its own contribution, and be able to say to our generation, when the movement is facing challenges, where is our generation? The type of training that we got through and the type of being able to face the apartheid regime, that determination and fearlessness, what happened to it? As it's being shown and it's being reflected, that since we met, since 1979 in the Congress of South African Students, and being able to go into the underground structures, and being able to build a united democratic movement, all that contribution and all that messages that we've been able to be trained of how to be able to lead our people to understand the challenges that they were confronted with. We're able to carry ourselves in a very responsible, very disciplined manner, and being able to become the voice of our people, and being able to link with the poor of the poorest, and be able to give them an interpretation and a framework of the type of society would love to be able to live under. So when we took up the Freedom Charter, that was one of our documents that we did, and what Tambo said we should be able to do, promote and be able to interpret the Freedom Charter that the people shall govern. These were the calls that we got ourselves into. And this is the document that has been adopted in 1955. We took it to our people and remade them to rethink and link up with the Congress movement and the history of the Congress movement. So the African National Congress, faced with these different challenges, and with the regime saying that the African National Congress is dead, it will never come back, we're able to defeat the regime ideologically. We're able to reject what the regime was trying to entrench into our minds. We're able to accept what the role that Steve Biko have played, that black men on your own, you should be able to de-link with what the colonialists have introduced to you through their education, and be able to confront the colonialists and tell them where we are, and tell them that their indoctrination would never stop us into what we believe in. We believe in that as a black child, as an African, you must be able to resist what the apartheid regime has introduced through the Verwoerd education system. And that's where we were as the Congress of South African Students. And that was our determination. That's why we started to talk of the education charter. That's why we started to link the education charter to the role of saying that our role as COSAS has to be, how do we build a better education system that rejects the class content of the apartheid regime, that makes sure that we look for an education system that will improve the life of an African child, that will be able to give them a better future. When we say education has to be dynamic, that's what we did. In our own introduction as COSAS, we said, before we become students, we come from a community, from a society. And it means that whatever we do, whatever type of education that we are getting as students, has to be linked to the material conditions that we come from. We come from squatter camps. We come from the poor of the poorest. And those material conditions influence who we became during our struggle. The struggle against apartheid, the type of material conditions that we were confronted with, was what made us to be determined, was what made us to be able to link up with the African National Congress. Because we realized that those challenges wouldn't be resolved by only getting into the SRCs or calling for the SRCs. But what we did in 1980 in Port Elizabeth, when we first strike after the 1976 boycott, we called for free education, but we were very aware that we would never get that free education under an apartheid regime. Would have to link that free education to the destruction of the apartheid itself. So when we started in Port Elizabeth, Port Elizabeth was the first one led by Umkose and the different people that were there. Student leaders, Abamzuli Sichasi, we all converge and says, with the group from Port Elizabeth, SRCs from Cape Town, and we started to put a forum together. And we said, we are very clear that we are not taking a boycott as the final end, but we are saying a boycott is a means to an end. And that's what made us to be able to engage, because without us being able to resist what the apartheid regime was introducing indoctrination in different schools, we would not be able to say to the regime that so far you come to an end in how you think you could be able to indoctrinate young people, the youth of this particular country. That's how we got ourselves into this struggle. So when we got through Section 22, Section 6, and Section 10, we're able to meet as all the different student leaders in our detention in Motapi, the first detentions, the longest that we have ever been together. But our students, because of our link with the students on the ground, because we're accountable as SRC leaders to those students, they rejected to go back to school because of the relationship that we had with them. We were quite clear that we were student leaders and student leaders that have been elected by students, and our presence in those institutions and our rejection of the apartheid education was linked to what the students were looking for, and our demand for end of the prefect system and the introduction of the Student Representative Council was quite linked to the rejection of the type of leadership or the type of homeland leaders that were being created. Then we said, with us at schools, we can't get into the prefect system. The prefect system, that type of leadership, is a creation of what the apartheid regime was looking for. And we are different from that. That's the type of youth leaders and generation you're talking about the 1980 generation, founded within the infrastructure and found within building the mass democratic movement. And it's quite clear when we said would link up with our parents were workers, our parents were peasants. And when we said those courses, before you become a student, link up with those parents. So we became part of Makosa and being able to mobilize that democratic movement. We're able to link up with the worker struggles that were taking place during that period. We're able to link up with the Wilson Roundtree and being able to understand what implication it has to be able to live and to be able to link with those different struggles. With our boss, Pruam Tumkolo, we're very eloquent into saying that our struggles would not only end up at school, but our struggles would be able to be linked up with what happens in our communities. That's why we're able to assist in the formation of PEPCO, in the formation of Makosa. That's how we linked up. And that's how we started to be engaged as a generation. And we moved on, as you are saying, every time yearly on the 8th of January, as OR Tambo makes his announcement of what the NEC of the African National Congress would be saying, would link up with that and take that, not as propaganda, but as a commitment that the information that is being, the type of statement that he has made, make the country ungovernable, would have to be able to take that down to the different people on the ground and talk to them that this is what is being expected, that you can't allow the apartheid regime to entrench itself and react as if it's representing our society. The apartheid regime would treat it illegitimate, and it's not representatives of our people. That's why we're to make sure that our student struggles were linked up with calling for those that are in Robben Island and in all different prisons to be released, because we never recognize the homeland system and their leaders. We never recognize the apartheid regime and their systems. We never recognize the different structures of the local government that were being created we wanted the leaders, all of them, to be released. And right through the 80s, we were representatives of those young people who were able to express and being able to resist throughout our detentions. The death of our friends and the death of our comrades remains as part of what has made us to be more determined to bring down the apartheid regime. As they were trying to make sure that Abospuam Tumkolo, whom have gone out and being able to do the work and link up with the underground, and they were being detained and being poisoned by the apartheid regime. But our determination has always been to introduce the African National Congress and revive its own structures to link up with our people. We've been able to make sure that throughout Umkhonto Wesizwe and its role within as an armed wing, because we were very clear as students that we don't have a capacity to introduce or to be able to take up the armed struggle or start our own army, but we should be able to link up with the underground structures of Umkhonto Wesizwe so that we popularize the armed struggle among as part of the solutions of defeating the apartheid regime. And that we have been successful up until we started the negotiation process. After we have started with our consensus and with our engagement with different organizations into putting together a mass democratic movement. Because we have always believed as COSAS and as different student leaders that would never be able to bring down the apartheid regime on ourselves, but the broader unity of our society and the broader unity of with our communities is essential in any struggle that will take place. And we're not being paternalistic or only thinking that the Congress movement will be the only movement that will bring down the apartheid regime. We're to go back and look for the Black consciousness leaders and re-link up with them and say to them, can we work together? We're to go and look for POSACs and the religious people to be able to bring all of us together under a formation called the United Democratic Front. Because the unity of the oppressed was quite important for all of us to defeat the apartheid regime. And that was the weapon that I'm asking. What has happened to the unity of the oppressed in defeating unemployment, in defeating inequality, in defeating the exploitation of the working class? Because you can't do without being able to make sure that the workers themselves, wherever they are located, enjoys the selling of the labor power, so that as workers, they themselves should be able to free themselves from capitalism or class exploitation. These are all the ideologies that we're holding together. That's our linkages with religious people, the linkages with communities, the linkages with society or the working class itself, was to determine to bring down the apartheid regime. We're not ambitious, or we didn't see that will defeat capitalism through that process only. But what we were interested with, it's how do we bring unity amongst all the oppressed. And we said that remained as a lesson as we conducted the revolution, that never worked in opposition or in conflict with the different political organizations. Find each other, and then your enemy remains to be those that are exploiting. Your enemy remains in inequality. Your enemy remains being poverty. These are the things that must always bring us together and make us to be united. As long as that we have not defeated poverty, as long as that we have not defeated inequality, then it means that as a generation, there is a responsibility that we are waiting for. And we should be able to continue with the unity that we've built amongst ourselves, the unity that we've built, and the unity that is being shown today in what is called coalition in the metro itself. That is the unity that we are looking for. That let's unite in defeating poverty. Let's unite in fighting inequality. Because without that unity, no democratic system would ever be successful without those that are feeling the pain being united in defeating with those that are creating unemployment, with those that are creating poverty, with those that are creating inequality. That has always been our goal, and that has always been our determination, that we should always make sure that, thank you, to make sure that those that are in different communities should always be united and should always be behind us. Your love for your organization, we love the African National Congress. We understood its policies, but we understood that it has to be united with different forces within communities and different forces within our society, and unite and be determined to fight against class exploitation, to fight against apartheid itself. But in the current times, we should all be united and working very hard to make sure that the inequalities that is facing our communities, the poverty that is confronting our communities, we are united against that. And our organizations and our strength should be able to use. So we are saying to the generation, let's unite and go back to our communities and ask for more unity so that we're able to defeat inequality, we're able to defeat poverty. Because this liberation and this democracy, we should be able to unite on how we fight against landlessness. Land is important, land is valuable for our own prosperity, and we should be able to unite. Let's use the democracy effectively to defeat inequality, to defeat poverty, and defeat landlessness. And that's why our focus is supposed to be as a generation, because all what we're fighting for has been well captured by those that were united in 1955. In 1955, when they were able to put together the Freedom Charter. The Freedom Charter, we understood that it never belonged to one party. We understood as the demands that were being put together by South Africans. And the value of that was being able to say as South Africans, this is our demand. And the first introduction when we entered the Congress movement was saying, do you understand the Freedom Charter? Are you able to interpret? That's why the Constitution itself that we're talking to says for these freedoms will be united, fighting side by side until we get this freedom. And that was our understanding. And that was our theme throughout the revolution, that we would always be united and working with our people and making sure that the freedom that we are fighting for is able to give and able to make sure that our people participate into it and they make their contribution. And that's what, when you say mass democratic movement and democratic participation, we have been always being able to make sure that our people and their voice is being listened to. Never be arrogant, never alienate those people, work with them, and being able to make sure that the ultimate aim is to make inequality and poverty to be destroyed and to be extracted by the type of governance that we have been able to put together and the type of economy that we have been able to decide and be able to make sure that it answers to the needs of our people. And that is what we're calling for. And that's what we're asking our generation, that participate in local government, participate in province, you have got the necessary skills now after 1994 to be able to use your education to assist with the transformation agenda. We need good public servants who are going to be loyal to the democratic processes. And it means that the education that you have got, the skills that you have got as an engineer, one thing that you must appraise and be able to be excited about is that since 1994, we have produced quite a number of young people who have been able to pass in universities and who have been able to pass at high school. Let them be able to be drawn into by government and be used and be effective into making sure that they contribute to the democratic process. We need those skills, because without them, we'll never be able to defeat inequality. Without them, we'll never be able to defeat poverty. Without them, we'll never be able to make sure that everybody enjoys the democratic privileges that we have been benefiting by what we have done and the sacrifices that we have done throughout the 80s. That's what the negotiation processes have been about, has been to empower, has been about defeating inequality, defeating poverty, defeating landlessness. That is what the generation of the 1980s must be able to do. Thank you. Now, after we've had the negotiations between the two parties and the broader South Africans, one lesson that came out of the negotiation, and which has always been carried by the democratic movement, has been how do you link up with the people and how do you make people to participate in decision making about their future. After they have done that in 1955, and when we reopened and unbanned the African National Congress inside the country, we always emphasize the role of our people. And when we put together the mass democratic movement or the United Democratic Movement, the center of that has been the people shall govern. And when that means, it didn't mean that people will be observing how we conduct and how do we talk from Parliament. But we have always been trying to make sure that there is the participation of our people. And that's what is central in any revolution. And that's what is central in conducting a revolution itself, is that where are the masses? Because even if it's an electoral system, even if it's getting itself has something to do or have got a say in what you are agreeing on. Now, this is what the African National Congress and this is what the generation has been able to do and being able to say must happen. The participation of the people, because you would never be able to defeat inequality, you will never be able to defeat poverty, you will never be able to defeat unemployment without the engagement and without the involving of our people. Because any economic system that's got crafted on top of the head of our people would never be able to put them in the middle. So it's very much important as we are going through these processes, as we are beginning, as we are in government itself, that we look for the role of our people. We look for suggestions of what type of an economic system would be able to fight poverty, fight inequality, because without their involvement and being decided behind corners, it will always become very difficult for us to defeat unemployment, for us to be able to defeat poverty, for us to defeat landlessness, for us to defeat inequality. These are issues that we face with as a government. These are issues that we face with as a democratic movement. And for us, it can be a European type of made of democracy. It has to be a democratic system that involves the people. We have to be able to get out of our small cocoons and broaden the scope of approach and re-engage our people on the type of political, not just the political system, but also how do you defeat and how do you make sure that the economic system that you are agreeing about has to be able to be broaden and accommodate the needs of the poor of the poorest. It can be a system that continues to re-empower those that have been in the colonial system. It can continue be a system that continues to strengthen the hands of capital. We must break that blockchain. We must break that chain itself, where capitalism thrives on what we've been able to do. And this is what the challenge is as we are rebuilding after the pandemic. That how do we make sure that our people participate within the system that we are creating? And this has been the success of the revolution in South Africa, where we've been able to make sure that the participation of our people, as I said initially, we made sure as COSAS that people or the student movement is built among the students themselves. When we went to a conference in '82, when we elected Shepard Martin, we said it's important that a student organization becomes a student organization. And those that have been kicked out of schools or have reached a particular age must go and form the youth movement so that they are able to continue strengthening organization amongst the people and you remain accountable to those people that have elected you. And that is the spirit of what we've been able to do throughout the 1980s. And if we could be able to do it even now, that we continue reflecting, continue engaging, some stage government have started to say there's imbizus. Those type of organs created to be able to go and listen to what the people say. You don't come to people on the field on the last year of the next elections, but throughout the processes, you continue visiting people because that umbilical cord with those that are downtrodden, with the poor of the poor, is very vital because it then makes you to be able to understand what are the needs of our people. And this is the challenges that I'm saying to the generation, and I'm saying to everyone. Let's continue to building that umbilical cord with our people. Let's continue making sure that our people feel that we are representatives of theirs, not by pretense, but by engaging them, by involving them. There can be policy arrangements that are being made on top of their heads. We must have effective work systems that could be able to show that our people are participants. our people are participating effectively. You can't ignore the traditional leaders. You need to be able to talk to them, to be able to reach out to their constituencies. Because a constituency base where people have a voice is what the Freedom Charter has been talking about. And it's what the democratic movement has been able to build to make sure that the people remain in the center of your programs. Either you build the economy, either you deal with the issue of landlessness, but the people has to be seen as participants within any other program that we take. And that's what we have been able to be successful with the revolution of South Africa. There's nothing wrong when people are critical of their leaders. When we agree that we have to have a vision of a capable state, it means that reach out to our people. It must be able to carry around our people. There's nothing that says that's permanent. We must neglect the voice of our people. That voice is very vital to any democratic system. It can be you govern on behalf of them. As a mass democratic movement, as we have unbanned African National Congress out what de Klerk would have offered us late in the 90s. Our own sacrifices, the detentions that we've gone through, has been about the centrality of our people in the revolution that we are conducting. And it's in their interest that we have a democratic system in South Africa today. And they must be able, even if they are in the rural areas, it's in their interest that they must be able to feel that government and different representatives are more closer to them to be able to sell the policies that they are talking to about. If you can't do that, forget about the revolution. Forget about the fact that our people will be able not to be lawlessness, because our instability will creep into our society. But it's in our interest that we should always maintain the umbilical cord with the people itself. And I'm saying the generation of the 80s have got the experience and they've been able to provide it throughout the revolution as you're conducting the struggle in South Africa, keeping contact with our people, keeping contact with the poor of the poorest, because inequality is hard hitting on their knees. Poverty is hard hitting on their knees. And those are the type of people we must be able to talk to and let them understand what type of policies and what type of government we are. Even if they talk the languages that we understand or the languages that we think, they must be able to talk to us too. But it's in our interest that we make sure that there's participation of our people. There's participation of young people. We must not stagnate. We must allow young people to have an opportunity. We must assist women to destroy patriarchy. We mustn't be more we must not move, regress. We must be able to build a society where these opportunities will be appreciated by our people themselves. The revolution has not been about us. The revolution has always been about the people themselves. And if we have delivered that after 1990, let's continue encouraging our people. Let's put in effort. It doesn't mean that we must now sit on the side and be observers to what is taking place in the democratic system. That's where the call comes in, that you must renew and rebuild the African National Congress, which remained part of one of the organs of society. There's quite a number of others. There's trade unions, there's continue to be civics. These are voices of our people. And we must be able to bring those voices together so that government that they have elected is not a government that remains of the elite, but it's a government that listens to the poor of the poorest, and making things very possible for them to remain as participants in the decision-making systems that are taking place within government. We must never build a society of observers. We must always be confident of our people wherever they are placed. And that's what is in need, and this is what is being demanded by the time and the challenges that we face with. That how do we make sure that the infrastructure that we have created over many years that has been able to hold people to account, is it in existence? If your branch is not effective, if your ward system is not effective, it means there's something wrong wherever you are located within society. Because those are the structures that must become the voice of our people. And they must be able to link and talk to them and give them the opportunity to raise their objections. If they say to you, I'm hungry, listen to them, because it's the truth. There's nothing else they can do when they're faced with poverty. And it's the type of system that must be able to dismantle and give and make everybody to feel that they are part of the system, and the state that they have created, the state they have voted for, is able to reach out to them. Don't collect the revenue, and after the taxes have been paid, it doesn't come back to them. It continues facing corruptions, and few individuals are benefiting within the system. That we must be able to leave that mentality. We must be able to have a mentality that says, is our people sleeping tonight having something to eat? At one cup of policies have we generated, even if it's a SASSA, is it effective? Is the systems there to be able to make our people to get their SASSA grants? But if we all observers and saying that things will get right on their own, that is the danger of what will derail the revolution itself, will derail the democratic system that we have built, because we have become observers to what is happening to our people. We must always feel the pain. What brought us into this revolution was nothing else than the material conditions and the pains that we're faced with. Poverty were facing us, inequality were facing us, and we need to be able to find and build the mechanisms and the policies that could assist us to destroy those things. If we don't, we'll definitely not be able to live along with our people. And what the Freedom Charter said is that this revolution is about them, and we have taught them, and we must be able to make it possible for them. We must be able to reach out to those that have been fighting for this revolution, who left the country during the 80s. That generation can be left out and die as paupers. It's our responsibility how we turn government policy around to make it possible for them to be able to live. But there's nothing worth when you look at the different people and look at poverty and you seem to be saying it's something that could have happened. We must destroy it. We must destroy unemployment. We must destroy landlessness. That's our responsibility. And those are the challenges that we must deal with. And this is where we are today. And this is where our commitment must be. But how do we make it possible that society, an egalitarian society, talks of every individual having a right and having a say within the system? We can't have a situation where people become observers in the revolution itself. We can't have a situation we talk of a democratic system and then expect our people not to have a voice or a say within the system. If you are a councillor, listen to our people. If you are a member of parliament, listen to our people. There are constituency offices created amongst the communities so that you go there and be able to listen to our people. That's the type of leadership we're looking for. And the type of future youth leaders we're looking for that are quite responsible, that understood what are the challenges of society and how to deal with those challenges. That's what influenced us, that made us to volunteer to get into these organizations and conduct the revolution against apartheid. We rejected the apartheid regime by creating prefect systems, by creating homeland leaders. We can't have leaders that live above us. We need leaders that are grounded amongst our people and be able to listen to the voice of our people. If you cut that umbilical cord with our people, you would never be able to fulfill their needs because you don't understand them. And this is what is missing within the challenges that we are confronted with. We will continue calling on our people. We will continue calling on the different revolutionaries that have participated within the conduct of the revolution, that we have always agreed that the revolution is about the people. It's not about individual. That's why we're to negotiate, because we never wanted to destroy South Africa. We never wanted to promote a system of lawlessness. So we must take full responsibility of these particular developments and remain participants within the system itself. It must be created what has happened in Gqeberha, the type of coalition that has been created that is now beginning to prove to be effective in being able to address the needs of our people. That type of generation of the 80s must influence the program itself, must use their experiences to be able to make our people to benefit within the system. This is what will make a stable South Africa. And we appreciate that work that is being done by different leaders within the Gqeberha area itself. It's beginning to become a good example of what the 1980 generation, if you look at Costa and you look at the other Tango Lamani and others that participate within Gqeberha itself, it creates a good impression. It gives confidence that the role of the Young Lions has not only been able to defeat apartheid, but also it's a role that we are saying rebuilding South Africa is one of our responsibilities. We must make sure that we sustain the democratic practices that we have been able to come through throughout the 90s, 1980s. We must do that. There must be practice that will help the society that we are faced with. And that's the call we're making. Remain close to the people. And that's what Buddha Mugaba will always be saying. Remain close to the people to defeat the enemy. If we remain far and be at a social distance, nothing will always be sitting and complaining because you are not part of the people. And that's what the revolution is about. It's about the people. And our contribution, even today, in the work that has been done within the metro itself, has always been how do we make sure that we reach out to the people themselves. And I appreciate as an observer from what happens in Gqeberha, it's beginning to be a good lesson that we keep contact with our people. Thank you.
Nyami, enkosi kakhulu for your very much strong message and a very much strong account on your role as activist of the 80s. People of Mbumaka TV and listeners of Gqeberha, You've heard it for yourselves. Where do these individuals come from? I normally hear people say history has no blank pages. And what Bunyami was talking about, indeed, history has no blank pages. He comes from Isazim, which was formed after the burning of Yazapo and the Black Consciousness movement in the 70s. They formed ICOSAS, influenced by he says influenced by the statement of Bantu Biko, black men you are on own. They have battled to get a better education system as COSAS. They have made it clear that as a student, as a scholar, part of the society. So your struggle is not separated from the struggle of the people. And they had a statement that said boycott is not an end, it is a means to an end. And this COSAS that they formed, it has instrumental in the formation of PEPCO. It was in the workplaces, formation of KUSA, and amongst them, they lost their comrades in the struggle, very young, mentioned of the death of Kulum and the others. COSAS played a role, and them as the 80s activists, they played a role in bringing the religious organization, because they were fighting end of poverty that was systematically made, end of inequality. These individuals identified as lovers of freedom, and he turns to say that with the education system that has been brought up, it is time that there is better democratic processes and better civil services that are not corrupt and that are serving the people. And it says representatives, public representatives should go closer to the people in order to achieve what they fought for as 80 generation of activists. Thank you very much, Bunyami. Thank you to the listeners of Makapa and Ngubela FM, Amakawa A2 are always appreciating your support program that we are running, as well as other programs that we are having on the ground. We are thanking you, and hopefully you are watching, keep on watching and supporting. My name is Yongamela Manene, and thank you for listening. Bye.